If only someone had warned us and told us that Donald Trump meant everything that he said. If only someone had been brave enough to stand up at a podium and describe in very clear detail and with a very even tone what would happen if Donald Trump ever got power again. If only. If only there had been a document that Republicans would have rolled out that could have showed us exactly what their plans for the future of America would be so we wouldn't be caught off guard. Oh, that's right. They did. And someone did warn us. We just chose not to listen. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show, dear friends, and happy Monday. It's a jam packed day, and I am feeling spicy. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's go. So I've been back from Europe for exactly 1 week today. And as Waj said earlier, the glow, the upbeat nature that I had, the dread has returned. And the knot in my stomach has made itself known again. Here's the thing that I'm realizing, though, as I am kind of trying to muster through today. Today was not a good day. And you know what? It's okay. Not every day is going to be a good day. But what I do realize is that we don't have to live like this. And I think that's why I chose to go away for a bit to just, decompress, even though I was still working, but to just be in a different geographical makeup, to have some distance between myself and this regime. Because it's very hard, as many say, to see a painting when you're standing on it. You kind of need to have a little bit of distance and back up so that you can make out all of the images. Now, here, just living back inside of the dumpster fire that is this country, I feel sick. I feel sick in every sense of the word. I feel tired. I feel achy. And I feel this just lingering doom. And I realize, having been away, you don't have to live like this. There are other ways to live. There are other places to live if, in fact, you have the privilege, the money, the ability to do so. But what we have continued to normalize about the environment that Donald Trump and his regime have created is not normal. And I will continue saying it so that it seeps into our minds so that we don't allow ourselves to just become complacent and allow their America to be inevitable. Their America isn't inevitable. It is only inevitable if, in fact, our complacency and our dread and our hopelessness takes full hold and drags us all the way down. But I started out today saying that if only someone had warned us, and someone did. But this country has a really terrible track record when it comes to listening to smart Black women.
Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power.
But she didn't stop there. She spoke credibly about the fact that, quote, he wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders, even when he tells them to break the law. Even said he would use the military to go after American citizens. Again, she didn't mince words.
We learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials. It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room. And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want?
The question was, what do the American people want? And as she stood there with the seal of the United States on her podium, which up until that time bared some weight, it meant that the person speaking knew what they were talking about. I played that clip because I want to remind all of us what that seal now means. It means that a liar is getting ready to open up their mouth. Donald Trump has literally defiled every single aspect of America right on the verge of its 250th year anniversary. It is so striking to me how difficult it was for outlets to believe Kamala Harris. The Hill, October 18th, 2024. Kamala's newest lie. Trump will send the army after you. Well, that didn't fucking age well, did it? And you see, they had no problem with referring to the truth that she offered, because what was she doing? Using Donald Trump's own words. But when it came to all of the lies that came out of Donald Trump's mouth, what did The Hill and other outlets do? Absolutely nothing but wash it and make it seem as if Donald Trump was some type of Nobel laureate mixed with like a fucking rocket scientist. So then, folks, we find ourselves here. In less than a year from that piece from The Hill, Pentagon says some guard units in Washington are now carrying firearms as Trump targets more cities. We all knew that LA earlier, few months ago, was a test ground. Washington, D.C.'s authoritarian takeover is a test ground because Donald Trump is laying the groundwork for martial law. Now, for those people who want to tell themselves that, oh, well, the courts will stop him, have not been paying attention. Because you see, the lower courts have tried to stop Donald Trump. They've tried to restrain Donald Trump. And then when those cases work their way up to the MAGA-fied Supreme Court, they give Donald Trump even more power. Right now, there are fucking tanks and armed military who are not trained whatsoever to deal with civilians. American civilians are now patrolling our fucking streets. And this is what has become our norm. 8 months in, Kamala Harris had 107 days to try and tell the American people the truth. She was our Cassandra again, having every bit of knowledge as to who Donald Trump was, using his own words to convince the American people not to make the same mistake twice. And America fucking doubled down. Now, I've said before, do I believe that Donald Trump won every swing state? I absolutely fucking do not. No president in the history has ever won every swing state. Do I believe that they cheated? Abso-fucking-lutely. But do I also know that 77 million motherfuckers voted for this man? Yeah, I do. And so now we go from LA to DC to Chicago to soon New York, Atlanta, and every other city that managed not to vote for a known fascist. This has never been about safety. It has always been about what General Milley said in his book. Trump's is fascist to the core and the most dangerous person to this country. These are people that were in close proximity to Donald Trump. These are people that saw his mind, his heart, or the space where a heart is actually supposed to exist. Rolling Stone put this out today. Fascism forward. Donald Trump earlier on Democracy-ish, that video is up now. He said, a lot of people are saying maybe we'd like a dictator. Of course, there's no follow-up from press in that room to say what people exactly. Because Donald Trump and his bobblehead Barbie at the press stand has been able to dictate who should be in that room, the clapping seals that should show up for duty, to just rain down praise on Donald Trump and laugh at his fascism and his authoritarianism as if he's telling some type of fucking stand-up joke. The joke is on us. Donald Trump has been ruling like an authoritarian since retaking office in January, repeatedly thumbing his nose at Congress, the Constitution, and any other check on presidential power. On Monday, Trump appeared to tease the notion of the United States becoming a full-fledged dictatorship while signing executive orders in the Oval Office. Trump was answering questions about his administration's military takeover of Washington, D.C., which he has said he will likely expand to other cities, including Chicago. As you know, Trump says, lying, Chicago is a killing field right now, and they don't acknowledge it. Trump is referring to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and other Democrats who don't want Trump to send troops into the city. They say they don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we'd like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with common sense and a smart person. If you have to say it, folks, you are neither. Trump, of course, said several times during the 2024 campaign that he wanted to be a dictator, adding each time he only meant on the first day of his administration. While he may have denied Monday that he wants to be a dictator, the president of the United States even suggesting that Americans want to do away with democracy and be ruled by one is chilling. No, it's not chilling. It's fucking accurate. Donald Trump has been making up delusions of these people that speak to him in his head, who tell him he's so great, he's so fantastic, and wouldn't you look great as a dictator? Donald Trump is following every single step inside of Project 2025, 47% of which is now completed in 8 months. Where do you think that we will be by this time next year? Oh, I have an idea that I won't be on air. I have an idea that you won't be in anybody's chat rooms. I have an idea that we won't even have mainstream TV, that the networks will have been drawn down to one, and that they will just play clips of Donald Trump and how fantastic he is in order to keep their licenses. The fact that I can't even in my mind imagine anything good but just increasingly bad in the next year from now, tells you everything. Trump has shown zero regard for Congress as a co-equal branch of government. And his administration similarly has operated as if it's not subject to ruling from the federal judiciary. The president has signed myriad unconstitutional executive orders, including one last week seeking to dictate how states manage their elections, despite the president having no role in federal elections. And another order Monday morning penalizing anyone who burns the flag with a year of jail time, which is a blatant affront to the First Amendment and directly contradicts Supreme Court precedent. It shouldn't be surprising, the Rolling Stone write, considering the praise Trump has long lavished on autocratic rulers around the world, from Russian President Vladimir Putin to Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Or what some of his own former administration officials have said about him. John Kelly, who served as both Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security and White House Chief of Staff during Trump's first term, said ahead of the 2024 election that Trump certainly prefers the dictator approach to government. That's like saying, the only really big difference is that, like, Trump likes oat milk in his coffee. as opposed to some who like whole milk. A dictator approach to government? No. There is government formed by the people known as a democracy, and then there is dictatorship. There's not a dictator approach. Just like the dictator light. Fuck off with the euphemisms. Just a thought. I think I've had enough of them. How about all of you? Quote, well, looking at the definition of fascism, it's a far-right, authoritarian, ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader. Centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a natural social hierarchy. This is what John Kelly told the New York Times when asked if Trump is a fascist. So, certainly, in my experience, those are the kinds of things that he thinks would work better in terms of running America. Here's where a lot of words are unfucking necessary. Do you think that Donald Trump is a fascist? Yes. What determines fascism? Well, there's that definition. Is there anything that you see in this definition that was just laid out that would have you believe that Donald Trump isn't a fascist and America isn't a fascist, being run by a fascist regime right now? Not one that I can see. And then we have this. I swear to fucking God. Like today, I got to tell you, not a good day for my mental health. A portrait of Donald Trump has now gone up outside the U.S. Department of Labor, y'all. Just in the event that you're unclear of the comparisons of Donald Trump and, I don't know, every modern fascist, autocratic, communist country, there's the eerie, disgusting picture of Donald Trump, followed by the logo of America 250, which, let's just be real, America, we can say from 1776 for the white Confederates or 1619 for those that believe in actual, history. 1619 to, well, then I guess fast forward. If we're working on the 1776, we can say that America DOA, dead on arrival, 2024. Just in case you needed more reference points. North Korea, Stalin. Let me just go back so that you can see it again. Zoom in if you need to. Not too close because I don't want you to turn to stone. This is where we are. The funny thing is, and it's not like funny haha, but the funny fucking thing is that he had the audacity to unfurl this abomination at the Department of Labor. And this is why I find it funny. Because the U.S. job crisis deepens. 806,000 layoffs so far in 2025, folks. It's only August. And you're talking about almost 1 million people have been laid off. Worse, since COVID crash. Remember who was president during COVID? Is your company next on the chopping block? This is according to the Economic Times. Here's the synopsis. The American job market faces turbulence. That's an understatement. Mass layoffs are impacting various sectors. In 2025, over 800,000 individuals lost their jobs. Technology, retail, and government sectors are significantly affected. Artificial intelligence and federal budget cuts contribute to the disruption. Job cuts increased by 29% in July compared to June. The United States witnesses the highest layoffs since the global health pandemic. There will be big changes in the American job market this year. There have been more mass layoffs in the industries, and in 2025 alone, this is the worst start to a year for jobs since the economy fell apart because of COVID-19. No industry seems to be safe. From tech to retail, technology, retail, and government sectors lead the pack, with AI and federal budget cuts driving much of the disruption. Now, I repeated that because I think that it's really important. How much money is Donald Trump investing in AI of our tax dollars to ensure that there is a permanent underclass in this country? Oh, it's into the hundreds of billions. Who is running the AI empires? Meta, Google, Musk, right? The oligarchs. Who is going to underdeveloped nations in order to extract their resources to mine for AI, the resources that are needed? None of this is an accident. You had Donald Trump's own economic senior advisor say that AI will be great. Everybody else just needs to go get trade jobs. That's what he said. Everybody needs to go get trade jobs. Those are good six-figure paying jobs. Yeah, I guess if you've put in maybe 10, 20, 30 years, then they turn into six-figure paying jobs. It's certainly not for everybody, and it's certainly not out of the fucking gate. The goal is to create and solidify the wealth of the 1%, eliminate the middle class with AI, because you don't need coders, you don't need editors. You won't need producers, you won't need journalists. Soon you'll have robots doing the jobs of manual labor, and then whatever else will be left will be the race for the Hunger Games. And Donald Trump and his cronies, the oligarchs that funded his campaign, are laughing all the way to the bank on your back. So when you manufacture chaos, when you torpedo the economy, what you're waiting for is the revolutionary backlash to that, so that then you can crack down with more militarization and right in time for midterm elections, declare martial law. Now, Wash had a theory earlier today on Democracy-ish where he said, look, Donald Trump, totally unwell. And I think that they are amping up and escalating the militarization, trying to do as much of Project 2025 as possible, because this motherfucker may only have a few months left. That's what some armchair doctors are saying with their armchair diagnoses. He don't look that well. And what we do know is that J.D. Vance, not charismatic, not liked, and oh, he has a brown wife and brown kids. The racists don't really like that either. But he was handpicked by Peter Thiel. His puppet master will ensure that he is right there waiting in the wings. So all he has to do right now is sit back, take his vacations, and wait for Donald Trump to kick the bucket. Because Lincoln Project asked a very good question in one of their videos that they put out today. they want you to believe that Donald Trump's hand looks like that because of all the handshaking. I don't remember Biden's hands looking like that, do you? And I actually saw a video of real people wanting to shake his hands. What that looks like to, again, I'm not a doctor, an untrained medical eye, looks like the area where an IV goes into. Now, that bruising seems to be becoming fairly regular. Now, I've had an IV before. I'm certain all of you have had an IV before. If you get an IV once, maybe there's a little bit of a bruise if the person didn't put in the needle correctly, or if you have little veins, takes a little bit of in order to get the right spot. If you're repeatedly getting an IV though, over and over again, like let's say on a daily basis, and you're 79, maybe your hand would start to look like Donald Trump's. Maybe your cankles would start to look like Donald Trump's. If in fact you have allegedly congenital heart failure. What I say is that this motherfucker doesn't look well. He does not look like the Donald Trump of 2016, obviously, but he definitely doesn't look like the Donald Trump of 2020, and he also does not look like the Donald Trump of 2024. He does not look well. And I got to tell you that JD Vance, while wildly unpopular, is chomping at the bit. Folks, I don't know where this is headed. I mean, I do know where it's headed, but there are some signs as to where it's headed. Trump threatens Chris Christie. This is following his raid on John Bolton's home last week. And ABC News, after watching critical This Week interview, because of course, what else would the president of the United States be doing other than watching fucking television? Trump on Sunday threatened to investigate Chris Christie over a decade-old political scandal and revoke ABC News' broadcasting license after the Disney-owned network aired an interview in which the former governor sharply criticized Trump. Donald Trump sees himself as a person who gets to decide everything and doesn't care about any separation. In fact, he absolutely rejects the idea that there should be a separation between criminal investigations and politically elected leader of the United States. This is what Christie said on Sunday on ABC's This Week. Here is Donald Trump's response, and the tennis holler is absolutely right. This doesn't feel very free speechy. Why is it that ABC and NBC fake news, two of the absolute worst and most biased networks anywhere in the world, aren't paying millions of dollars a year in licensing fees? They should lose their licenses for their unfair coverage of Republicans and or conservatives, but a minimum, they should pay up big for having the privilege of using the most valuable airwaves anywhere at any time. Crooked journalism should not be rewarded. It should be terminated. So where do I think things are going to be in a year? Do I have a little picture or a glimpse into it? Yeah, I think I do. I think that when Donald Trump decides to lie about Westmore, and Westmore, quote, retweeted this and said, LOL, to the absurdity that he would ever say that Donald Trump was the greatest president of his lifetime. I was going to play the clip, but I'm going to spare you because I don't even have the stomach for his bullshit right now, and I can't hear his voice. Basically, if he called Chicago a killing field earlier today, he has called Baltimore a death field. No stats, no facts, no real information, just, moving on satanic vibes. That's how Donald Trump grooves these days. But I do want you to listen to Wes Moore and what he has said about Donald Trump's militarization and what he thinks is going to happen.
Are you so opposed to this deployment?
Well, there's plenty of reasons. One, it is not sustainable. You cannot continue this type of pace of operations, particularly when it's costing over $1 million a day in order to do this. The second, it's not scalable. You're not going to be able to do this in every single major American city, particularly when many of the cities that have the highest crime rates are the places that have actually deployed their National Guards to Washington, D.C. So who's going to go do the work in their cities? The third, it's unconstitutional. It's a direct violation of the 10th Amendment. And if for a party that talks about state rights, it's amazing how they're having such a big government approach in the way they're conducting public safety. The fourth reason is because it's deeply disrespectful to the members of the National Guard. As someone who actually deployed overseas and served my country in combat, to ask these men and women to do a job that they're not trained for is just deeply disrespectful. And so when we're thinking about all of these lasting factors, when we're thinking about the fact that it serves as a distraction from the fact that the president's disastrous economic policies are making everything more expensive for everyday Americans and making life harder for everyday Americans, there is a multitude of reasons that I am against this, and I will not authorize the Maryland National Guard to be utilized for this.
The fact is, this is all bullshit. Donald Trump is up against a wall. He's like a dog in a corner. He's unhinged, filled with rabies. But the fact is that the economy is tanking because he's tanking it. Nearly 1 million people have lost their jobs, and we're not even at the 12-month mark of this year. He's clearly unwell, and he doesn't trust that his own people will show up in the numbers that they've done so in the past. So he's got to rig the elections. Oh, not to mention that following Texas's unconstitutional move to gerrymander the fuck out of their state, Gavin Newsom is holding an election on November 5th, or maybe it's the 6th, whatever it is, the first Tuesday in November, to allow the voters to decide whether or not to expand their number of House seats. And so guess who has threatened to sue Gavin Newsom, calling the move illegal? I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? So it's okay for Texas to rig an election, but if a Democratic governor does the same thing, it's illegal. On what grounds? So either you want Texas's seats to go through or you want no seats to go through. But just like I say, we can't rely on the courts to actually do their fucking jobs. Somehow they will find a way to say that, oh, Texas's move was legitimate, even though, they kidnapped one of their representatives. And somehow what Gavin Newsom is doing is absolutely against the Constitution. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is talking about we need 100 new seats. If he cannot win with an election, he will win by force. Donald Trump right now has a section of the White House where he's selling 2028 merchandise, which, by the way, is fucking illegal. But at this point, even saying the term illegal has lost all of its luster. So do you think that this man is leaving in 2028? I mean, he may be leaving. You know what I'm saying? Leaving. But barring that, he ain't leaving. he's planning on running, whether it's from the casket or not. Speaking of caskets, and by the way, folks, if you are here for the first time, please do hit subscribe, like, and comment to help the algorithm fairies. I'm trying to get to 30,000 subscribers right here on YouTube. And if you're watching this on Substack right now, do hit subscribe. All of my content is free and will never go behind a paywall. But if you do have a few bucks, consider becoming a paid subscriber on Substack. And back to our regularly scheduled programming. So, speaking of ill, speaking of caskets, I think that this was the news today that sent me over the fucking edge. Like, I think that this was the news that sent me over the edge today. Trump and RFK Jr. to ban COVID-19 vaccine within months. Trump and Health and Human Services Secretary Kennedy are allegedly planning to ban COVID vaccine within months, years after Trump labeled the vaccine's development during the pandemic as, quote, a monumental achievement. Remember when he wanted to take all the credit for Project Warp Speed? Well, why it matters, because back in 2020, he called it a historic success. He commended doctors, scientists, industry executives, and state local leaders for expediting the process and mass distribution, an initiative that later garnered criticism from a portion of his political base, along with questions and concern about the vaccine's efficacy and potential health impacts. Here's the thing, folks. I don't give a fuck what you think about the COVID-19 vaccine. I really don't. The fact is that if I want to take the vaccine, I should be able to. The fact is that if I want to give the vaccine to my child, I should be able to. Or an elderly family member. You should have choices. Now, all choices come with consequences. If you don't take the vaccine, you get sick, or you die, or you don't get allowed into certain countries and certain places and certain buildings and et cetera, et cetera. You remember how it rolled? But everybody had choices. Take the shot, don't take the shot. But to take that power of protection away from some of our most vulnerable, the elderly, those with pre-existing conditions, whatever it is that you may think of the vaccine and whether or not you took it, I should still have the right to take care of my own health. And this fucking regime is not only making sure that we are broke, but making sure that we are sick, undereducated, I mean, you name it. They are literally crippling our society from every fucking angle, every goddamn place. America is breaking down. It is just, goddamn. Nina Simone wrote a song called Mississippi Goddamn. And I got to tell you, it is America goddamn to me. This place is a motherfucking dumpster fire. It's like if the Titanic were a dumpster filled with chemical waste and it was set on fire and everybody was on it. That's where we are. On top of which, I mean, you read it, because I'm running out of steam. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, wrongfully detained for 160 days, beaten, tortured in El Salvador. Finally released for all of 2 fucking days and then detained again, and now is going to be sent to Uganda. I don't know why. You might as well stay in this fucking shithole country. They're saying they're going to send you to Uganda like this place is somehow like fucking Disney World. Why Uganda, folks ask? Oh, I don't know. Because Donald Trump just puts his fucking fat hands on a map and says, what's the one of the worst places with the worst prisons? And then goes, that one. That's why. Federal judge said Monday that she will order officials to keep Kilmar Abrego Garcia in the United States while she weighs a new legal challenge for him from him over the Trump administration's plans to quickly deport him to Uganda. Paul Zinnis said during a brief hearing Monday afternoon that Paula, that she's planning to stretch out an existing hold on Abrego Garcia's removal so she can more fully consider whether officials are violating his due process. I mean, folks, like, do we have to wonder whether or not his rights are being violated? Do we have to play this fucking game? Yes, his rights are being violated. Yes, he's being used as like a scapegoat for this administration because they refuse to admit the fact that they did something wrong. They will not stop until this man is dead. Those are facts. They will not stop until he's dead, and then they will say, good riddance. So I've laid it out from start to finish today. Kamala Harris tried to warn us. She told us exactly what would happen if Donald Trump became president again. She minced no words. Now we're here. And every day is a new 17, 18, 19, 20 fucking headlines that tell you all the way that these motherfuckers are defecating on our Constitution. Every day. It's been 8 months. I continue to call for a national strike. I continue to say that the only thing that is going to stop this is not just people marching out in the streets. Stay home. Stop working. Like, we need to pick a day and just say it begins today. We're not working. We're not attending school. We're not shopping, except for basic necessities. We're taking care of each other, and we're shutting this country down. Because you see, if we go into the streets en masse, they're rolling out the tanks, and it's Tiananmen Square all over. It's Kent State all over again. You stay home. You boycott everything. You shut this shit down. Then we actually have leverage. Folks, where this is headed is dark. If you think it's bad now, project a year into the future. Where do you think that we will be? Tell me in the comments section today, after you watch this video and you share it, where do you think America is going to be a year from today? That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. I want to thank you all so very much for showing up today. And I want to shout out the super stickers and super thanks. Beans, I appreciate you. Treville, appreciate you. LB, Rebecca, Polly Webb, as always. PJ, huge thank you so much. Susan, as always, so grateful. Blue Lady, Joe, Valerie, Margaret, Libby, Mary, thank you so very much for your contributions. And folks, if you do not have the ability to drop a few bucks in or become a paid subscriber on Substack, please do hit subscribe. It is free. Hit share, hit like, comment, and get this show and channel in as many streams as possible. I appreciate each and every single one of you. We will continue to link arms, ground our feet, take deep breaths, and get through this together. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well.